Welcome back to Hot Take. I'm joined again by Mark Goldbridge. It's Tuesday morning, so get the like button hit. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're sharing across your social media platforms. Mr. Goldbridge, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's been an interesting week since last we spoke. And it's been up and down as it always is with United. I just wish we weren't doing this tour because I just think I've had enough of Amorim. I like Amorim, but I can't listen to any more of his interviews about improving and optimistic. They should just all be having a break. I think we need a break for 2 months, really, because then in 2 months, at least I want to listen to them again. But at the moment, I can't see Mason Mount smiling and talking about the fans and this. They just need to disappear for a couple of months, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like Amorim's press conference this morning. There were some good bits in it. And there were some other elements where I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm too scared to ask. I'd rather not know anything. I liked how they left it with the speech, if that makes sense. The good times are coming. Leave us there for a few weeks, you know. I don't mind the news coming out, but it's like these post-season games.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself watching one. I know I will because I'm a United fan, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, give us a break. Give us a break, please.
Well, we're doing watch-alongs for both of them, and it's sort of like I'm going to spend my time tonight writing a list of, you know, like a gorilla versus 100 men. I'm thinking those sort of questions because I just, the chat will be going, Mount's just scored a worldie, and I'll be going, I don't care. Did he do it last week in the Europa League final? He's doing it on the other side of the world against people I'll never see again, and it doesn't matter, you know?
I felt that way against Villa because the worst thing is, I don't care about that game. And then it starts and you're like, well, come on, let's win. And then we're playing really well. And I found myself getting angry. I was like, where's this been for 37 games? But Amorim, in fairness, did call it out. He said, well, that's what happens when the pressure's off, which is, I keep telling Man United fans till I'm blue in the face. It's something I'm very passionate about. Mentality is so key, and handling pressure is part of your mentality, and we're poor. But yeah, as Rinwan says, zero pressure equals performance. And look, we've got some really interesting tweets that are relating to some of the big transfer news that's around Gyokeres. We're looking at Mbuemo, Delap, Wirtz to Liverpool, but what this means. So this show's a little different if you haven't watched it before. It's looking at other people's opinions, and Mark and I give our views on it. We look at these hot takes, we look at these views, and we share. Plus, of course, we're live. So your comments, your super chats, your member chats also add to the podcast as well. So you could have a hot take that you want us to react to. So send those in to us, and we'll be sure to do it. But as I say, get the like button hit. Nearly 3,000 people already tuning in, which is mind-blowing for me and the channel. So
get that chat thing going on in the bottom right-hand corner. Never seen that before.
Yeah, on StreamYard, they've got this new little feature which is show comments on stage. So yeah, it comes up on the stage. Yeah, StreamYard's all right. You know, it's there's a few things I would check. It's not as customizable as I would like, but it's decent. Yeah, it looks all right. So you guys can see your chat. So get your chats in, people, and get it done. Morning from New York. I'd love to be in New York today. I'd love to be away from it. I'm not gonna lie. First, actually, just do some of the super chats because we're just tuning in actually. So because some of these are topical. Mount will be the preseason Perlo. That could happen.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It really could happen. I've seen it before. Scott, years ago, the best ever preseason performance levels I ever seen was Tom Cleverley back in the summer. I think it was of 20. Whenever we lost the second Champions League finals to Barca, 2011. The summer of 2011 going into 2012. Honestly, I saw him play. We played Barca again in preseason. He dominated. Yeah, it does happen.
He had a good glow up, Tom Cleverley, for about a year because he played in the Olympics. In fact, I was down one of my local pubs last night, and as I was walking out, I saw Lee Hendry sat having a drink. And my daughter was like, "Oh, who is he?" Because his son goes to my school, and he never shuts up about how his dad. And I went, yeah, he was a good footballer. It was short lived. He ended up playing for England and everything, and it was sort of all over in 12 months in the sense of he had this sort of Tom Cleverley 1 year where everyone was like, oh, he's going to be amazing. And then, yeah, not that they didn't have a good career, but they sort of had that 1 year where it was just like, oh, they're going to be brilliant. And then it just didn't quite happen.
Yeah, I remember the branch the branch I was in and where is in Kingston Road in East London. And I remember coming down the stairs. I just had a little promotion. I was like, oh, really happy. And I remember I went downstairs and there was all these cashiers cashing up their tills for the day. I said, Terry, I need to ask you a football question. We know you're a United fan, but can you be unbiased? And I've always been unbiased. And this was the question. Who do you think's better, Tom Cleverley or Jack Wilshere? And I laughed because I was like, how are we doing it? Jack Wilshere was such the better football player. But Tom Cleverley, as you say, had a little bit of a glow up for a year or so. Josh here, one of our members of 63 months, says, cheers, lads. So glad to catch you guys live on the morning show. I'm actually in Paris with the wife. Everyone smash the like buttons. Pre-season Perlo loading for these players. I love the fact you're in one of the most beautiful romantic cities in the world with your wife and you're tuning into Mark and I. That's I feel privileged, Josh. that don't get in trouble though, me old mate. Don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble. I'm so glad you super chatted, Ali. Ali, Dembele over Sancho. I'm always right. This man atted me last night with an old clip from the Terrace that's on our Clips channel, saying, I told you that Dembele was better than Sancho. I deleted the clip. I've had a bit of stick for it. But the reason I deleted it is because of you, Ali. Because you are shameless. You, contextually, at the time, I would have still chose Sancho over Dembele. Dembele's doing great now. You love to post your W's and act like you're Nostradamus. And I love you, bro. You're a great guy. We always got on. I deleted it purely to wind you up, to take a W away, because you also don't ever share your comment when you said Eden Hazard to Real Madrid, he will show levels and he'll outperform Ronaldo and Bale at that club. You never post that. You never post any of the clips where you said the Glazers are not a problem at United and are great owners. You never post that. You never post the clips when you phoned into the Terrace and said that Erling Haaland will struggle to score more than 5 league goals in the Premier League. That's why I deleted it, because it's easy to pick and choose your W's and your L's, my friend. But big up for the super chat, Ali. Hope you're good. Panel, sad what happened to Liverpool during the celebrations. Yes. We all saw that. I know Mark tweeted, I tweeted, and many others. And, you know, fingers crossed that nobody is seriously hurt. I haven't seen any updates this morning, to be fair, on that. And wishing everybody well and hopefully speedy recoveries for every single person involved. Mark got that. I don't give a fuck look. Yeah, I do. This morning, I'm just like, if you watch the United stand, I'm a little bit sort of, It's just being a United fan. I am actually excited in a general sense around the summer transfer window. Massive shout out for Liverpool for what they're doing. I expect Arsenal to follow, Chelsea to follow. It's just depressing what United are doing. No, I hear you, mate. Coach, by the way, he is a selective memory poster. And all my L's are on my Clips channel. People always go, Terry, you never get clipped up. KJ posts multiple opinions of mine every single day. They're out there. Some are right, some are wrong. I leave them. But I only did it to Ali, or AKA iTest, that used to phone in, because he only wants to put posts up. You know, when Haaland did 3, I mean, even this year where Isak's been better than Haaland, you're only talking about 1 goal. It's crazy. And I like Isak, by the way. And he was right. iTest was right about how good Isak was. His overall claim was wrong, because he said that Isak is so good he's going to make Haaland look crap, and that claim ain't true, even though Isak's a good player. So it's not really a W. We've got to be fair about this. Let's go on to our first comments of the day. Now, this here is relating to, and now I can't find, this is relating to Liverpool. And this is from Adam Keys. It says, Liverpool have Frimpong, Gyokeres all wrapped up and are about to sign Florian Wirtz. They are not messing around. Arsenal have work to do, a lot of work to do, and it needs to be done early. They are making a statement after winning the title. We need a huge summer. I think we'll all agree that the cities and the Arsenals will need a huge summer. Do these signings from Liverpool make them the favourites for next season already, in your opinion, Mark?
No, not really. I don't think so. I said a few weeks ago that I think Arsenal are going to win the league. Obviously, so much of that is dependent on the striker they bring in. I expect it to be Gyokeres, and I think that will be massively transformative. We saw with Liverpool last year, they didn't have any summer transfers, and the big signing was Slot. He had a pre-season with them, and they hit the ground running perfectly. He obviously is a manager, and I applaud this because it's not something that United have ever figured out, who realizes that if he has his players ready for pre-season, they'll be better prepared for the start of the season. It's almost like if you have a good pre-season, you'll have a good season. There's something about pre-season that has something to do with performing in the season that many clubs like United have not figured out. And obviously Slot, is one of them managers that has said, look, I want these players, I want them in for July, go and get them. And that's great. But what you got to remember is that Arsenal have got the best defence in the league. They've had that for the last 2 years, I think. They've still got the likes of Declan Rice. Zubimendi is going to be there for July. If they bring a striker in, which I'm sure they will do for July, they'll have a pre-season as well. So I think Arsenal are a very strong team. And I hope next season we're going to get a really good title race, because I think Arsenal should have been closer to Liverpool, but because of numerous reasons they weren't. But they don't need a lot of things, Arsenal. They just need that one thing, I think.
Yeah, look, I agree with the tweet that they need a big summer. Where I slightly disagree with yourself, I do think it makes Liverpool the favourites as of right now. But, and a lot of people are putting that pressure on Liverpool, you are the favourites. Yeah, right now, because they've pretty much got Wirtz, Frimpong and Gyokeres over the line. However, we don't know what City are going to do. We don't know what Arsenal are going to do. And we don't know what Liverpool's squad's going to look like at the beginning of the season, because injuries do play a part. And touching wood, I don't wish injury in any player or any squad, but a couple of big important players hurt themselves in pre-season. We saw Real Madrid a couple of years ago, but they lost 2 or 3 players to cruciate injuries in the summer. So as of right now, I think it's fair to say Liverpool, as defending champions, are the favourites with these signings. But this is all going to change. And one thing I will say, and this is an apology I have for you, Mark, because for years, I used to call you out when you used to get annoyed over pre-season games. And I'd sit there and be like, who's this Pratt? Who's this Pratt from Prattsville, right? Who's our pre-season don't matter. It's just friendlies. The older I've got, the more I've realized, no, actually, with the way that the league has changed in the last decade and the fast starts you need, pre-seasons and being good at pre-season are really key. So, yeah, sorry for all those years of calling you a muppet for saying that, because you were right.
Yeah, but I also think that pre-seasons are really important, but a lot of clubs disrespect them by chasing the money. I think if Man United spent 6 weeks before the start of the season never leaving Manchester and just playing local friendlies against Everton at Goodison and this, that, and the other, they'd be better prepared. The problem with pre-season now is it becomes a way to, make money and travel around as much as you can do all around the world, and that's not necessarily the best preparation. But the actual pre-season, as we saw with Liverpool and Slot last year, was massive. No one saw that coming.
No, I agree. I always remember that Arsenal pre-season 2022, where they ended that campaign where they bottled top 4. I remember there was a famous quote from Gary Neville that this is the best they'll ever be. And I also remember a lot of Arsenal fans saying, I don't think we'll ever make Champions League again. And they just looked in that pre-season of the summer of 22. They were just out of this world. And that was when I did the video. I thought Arsenal scare me, and I still stand by what I said in that. I said they become title contenders, and what my fear came from the fact that they were kind of in the mud with us, if not lower in the mud. And that's also probably what's made Man United's bad season even worse this year, is that although Spurs came 17th, they did win a trophy. There hasn't been anybody else, any of the other big clubs, to kind of sit alongside us to take some of the attention away. It's purely been us. And that was what one of my biggest fears was. It was a team that was always the whipping boys, suddenly not being. Therefore, like, the focus is on you to not be bad in that same way. So, yeah, I think pre-season is very, very important indeed. But excellent. How would you make of Wirtz to Liverpool? How well do you think he'll do in the Premier League if that deal completes?
Look, I think with Wirtz, he's a player that everybody would sign, but they might not necessarily know why. And what I mean by that is I think he's a really good talent, but obviously this is a big step for him. And I think Liverpool is probably the perfect place to go. I almost think Bayern might not have been the right move for him. I think at Liverpool, you're going to have to work ridiculously hard in that team. You've got a lot to prove in a team like that. They've got a lot of big players in a team like that. They've also got a fantastic manager. So I think ultimately it'll be hard for him not to be a success. But I'd be lying if I said I knew everything about Wirtz, because I don't spend a lot of time watching German football, if any. But I've seen bits of him, and I think that you would expect him to be a really good signing for Liverpool, and you would demand he is, because he's going to cost a lot of money. But it's a very big signing, and it's a statement signing as well, because I would have thought he would have been going to Bayern or maybe even City up until a year ago.
Yeah, massive statement, Simon. I agree. Viewers, make sure you're hitting the like button for us, please. Next post is quite an interesting one, linked to a player, connected to a player that we're linked with, or that we're about to sign. And this is Janty, a huge Chelsea fan online. It says, can't lie, pulling a player like Cunha after having the worst season ever really shows that Manchester United are the biggest club in England. What do you think, Mark?
Can I be honest? I think he's one of them people who probably wants to diversify his following on Twitter. It just feels like the biggest clamp my mouth round arse, United fans' arse ever. I mean, just yeah. Even as a United fan, I'm sort of like, he's obviously woken up and gone, I could do with some United followers. Like, it's just not true, is it? I think the signing of Cunha is remarkable from Manchester United, but I think that has to be to the detriment of Chelsea and Arsenal and Newcastle and every other club that clearly didn't go for him. I don't understand that. I think Cunha is a fantastic signing, Terry. I do. I think his goals, the style of play, the assists, the character, I like the passion. I think he's perfect for Man United. But then again, there's probably a Preston attacking midfielder who's perfect for United at the moment because we're so bad. But he is really good. And I'd spoken about him as a dream signing at the start of the season. So to bring a player in like that's really exciting. But I don't understand why it was such a straightforward deal for United to do like this. It felt like there was no competition for it at all. And the only thing I think is, I know Arsenal looked at him in January, but I don't think he's a player Arsenal need. I think they need a striker. They don't need like a 10. And maybe we've got away with it there a little bit. That I think there's a lot of clubs in the Premier League that like him, but probably went, where does he fit? Whereas we do play with 2 10s. And also, I think people might have looked at the 62 million and gone, he's a little bit overpriced for what we need at the moment. So I think we've made a really good signing, but I think the reason other clubs, the way that tweet reads is that we've beaten everybody else to him, but we know that's not true. We haven't beaten anybody to him. We've just gone and got a good deal done. And I think it's a lot of money. I don't think we've paid too much money, by the way. I think he's worth it, but I think it's a lot of money for other clubs who probably, like Newcastle could afford it, but they'd be using a lot of their budget on a player they don't need. Same for Arsenal, same for Liverpool. I don't think other clubs really needed him. So we have got a really good signing there.
Yeah, I agree. I got asked that question on Straight Facts yesterday morning. And in fairness, Mo Gender, I love him to bits, great guy. But he likes to always, he likes, that's why everyone calls him Mo Gender, because he's always got an agenda. I don't think we got him because no one else wanted him. I think it's sometimes, I love quoting this every now and then. It's the great Barry Manilow. Right love at the wrong time for a lot of other clubs. And do they need that profile, that individual as a priority? No, United do. And I think it fit. Of course, we're still a big club that is still attractive. I'm never denying it. But if Man City made a massive play, if Liverpool put all their eggs into that basket, if Arsenal did, if all those teams came in for him, do I think at this particular moment we would have landed him? No. And we're seeing that right now with Victor Gyokeres. As much as I think we would love him as our number one priority striker, I think in reality, we know that the Arsenals of this world have a bit bigger and better chance with where they sit in the title race conversation. They're in the Champions League. And it appears that they're, we would all say, objectively speaking, they're more likely to win a major trophy next year, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc., than Manchester United. So I get the tweet. It's like part of your ego wants to go, yeah, it's true. But I think we have to be really honest about the breakdown of why, that deal happened. This here from Just Football, he says, Cunha in Mbuemo and 2 more. What do you think as the priority?
Striker. Yeah, striker. And it's interesting, like I read this morning about Chelsea that it was Ben Jacobs saying that Chelsea want Delap, Ekitike, Gyokeres or Sesko. And if you're a Chelsea fan, the one player you don't want out of them is Delap. So I think that United will probably end up with Delap because he's obviously a player with a lot of potential, but he's also cheap. So I think United will end up with him. So, I hope it can work out because there's a lot of work to be done there and there's a lot of pressure on him. But as Terry just said, you know, I think if we'd won on last Wednesday, we would have had a great chance of maybe, you know, getting into the fight for Gyokeres, but beggars can't be choosers. And it's scary to think what we'd end up with if we didn't get Delap, actually, because it's not like we're going to pivot to Osman. So, yeah, I think United will get that over the line, but we definitely need whether we keep Rasmus or not, I think we need 2 strikers anyway, but we definitely need a striker there. Yeah, definitely.
We do. And the Delap spin, the Delap PR, the Delap news cycle was very interesting yesterday, because there was this first claim from Chris Wheeler that Chelsea have edged ahead of Manchester United in the race to sign him. And I think Alex Crook from TalkSport also published this. But then late last night, Rob Dawson stated that Man United have agreed the framework of the deal for Delap and are now waiting for the striker to decide his next move. United have informed Ipswich they will meet the 30 million release clause. And there was more talk about personal terms there being agreed. But with Chelsea, as you say, they're looking at 2 strikers. And when you read a lot of the reports, it appears that like Delap is third choice for them. So I suppose that's where Man United see their opportunity, that we could maybe say to Delap, look, you're a number 1 choice as opposed to third choice. Pick us because you're guaranteed a starting berth. But it's a little bit of a guessing game about where he's going to go at the minute for me. I don't know if you see it that way at all.
Yeah. I think it. Look, all I know in relation to Delap is that, funnily enough, it was on the United stand that we had a really good source on this one who said that he was the priority and we were confident we were beating Chelsea. And this was weeks ago. And then within a couple of weeks, you got all the people like The Athletic and reporting about it. So I think he will end up at Manchester United because Wilcox obviously had that relationship with him at Manchester City, and we are obsessed with it. And it feels like United need it more than Chelsea, because Chelsea can move to what I think are better players. They can get an Ekatike, they can get a Sesko, whereas Man United, if we don't get a Delap, we can't box up. So I think we've basically got to probably offer him a little bit more money, you know, say we're going to build the team around you. We probably have to do that, whereas I'm not sure everybody else can do that, you know. I don't know. I think we'll get the deal done anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll get. Has your mind changed at all? I know that you weren't overly keen, not on the player and his talent. I want to be very clear in saying that, but your sort of take on this was we need more experience. He's had a good first season in the Prem, but there's no guarantees. As you might, you know, sometimes your mind changes when you research a player more, or are you still sort of firmly in that camp?
No, I've researched the player, and I think that he is going to be, well, just based on Ipswich, he's not really a build-up player. He's not really a link-up player. He's not really a passer. He's a hard-working goal scorer. He's more Erling Haaland than, say, an Isak or someone like that. I'm not saying he's Erling Haaland by any means, but he's definitely going to be a service striker. But it's not his fault if United buy him, by the way. It's like, I think it's a risk. I'll back him. I'm sure the United fans will back him. But I think what we need is somebody who's experienced to hit the ground running. You know, we need goals. So, yeah, but it's probably a sign of the times. What I will say is if United get this wrong, I think someone like Jason Wilcox needs to be replaced, because he is definitely the driver of this. And you either understand Man United or you don't. I think it's a risk. It needs to pay off.
It's certainly true. It's as you say, he needs to. And I don't want to put any undue pressure on Delap if he signs and agrees to join Man United, but he has to come in next season and probably score 15 minimum league goals and play well and make the system come alive. We do know we have a striker issue in terms of putting balls into the back of the net. Like there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders next year. We obviously saw the comments earlier on today from Ruben Amorim, Mark, about it not being there being 2 plans, one summer with Champions League, one without. He's alluded to there not being loads of signings this summer because they don't have the money for it, which I think is sobering for a lot of United fans. Glory Man United here, GGMU says, I think our window will be good and Amorim is just being extra cautious so we don't get mugged with clubs thinking we have lots of money. What's your take on that part of the Super Chat? Do you think that it is sensible to play down and act like we have no money? Or do you think we should be a little bit more forthright, frank and honest?
I think it could be a poker face, to coin a phrase, where he's just, trying to lower expectations. But also, it's one thing to play poker face with other clubs, but you're also damaging your reputation to fans. Like I was reacting to that on the United stand this morning, and there was a lot of anger in the chat when the manager's saying, we're going to struggle. We're going to have to be patient. I've got to work with what I've got. That's the main plan. We can't spend anything because of FFP. So, you know, you're damaging your reputation as a manager if you're lying. And I don't think he is a liar either. Also, how does that make Brentford go, oh, we feel sorry for you, you can have Mbuemo for 30? I don't think it does. I think he's telling the truth. I think he's got to sell to buy. I think that's what he's basically saying. As of now, today, we probably have got very little money and we have to work with what we've got. If in a month's time you've sold Garnacho, you've sold Rashford, that might give you a little bit of leeway to go and offer money for Mbuemo. But in a month's time, Mbuemo's probably gone. So I think that we saw last summer, didn't we, with how late Agate came in, and that seems to be a tactic of United, is that they won't commit money until they've got money. And I think Amorim's probably telling the truth that by the time we've got money, the way the transfer window is going, everyone's moving really quick, aren't they? So I think he's probably just preparing us for the potential worst. And if that doesn't happen, then it will be a positive, which will obviously hit the fan base in a more positive way. Sometimes, you know, being honest is the best course of action, I think. Even though it's very disappointing, we can't be surprised. This is the sort of situation that United are in. I certainly don't think they've got money at the moment beyond the Cunha deal.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that. My issue, we're saying this backstage, is that the journalists never seem to ask good questions. So for me, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, that doesn't read like we've got a lot of money and we might not buy a lot of players. And if we only buy 2 or 3 this summer, there isn't going to be a massive improvement next year if we're working with majority of the same group of players. Equally, could this be not a language barrier, but as he kind of sort of said, is he saying don't expect 10, 12, 15 new signings and a completely new squad because there isn't that money? I would have followed up with that kind of question. I'd have asked him for a number of players of which they're expecting to sign, because I think most level-headed Man United fans would be happy with between 5 and 7 good quality signings. And I mean, I'm a bit like, I think me and you would probably agree on this. I like a lot of the profiles we're linked with. A lot of them are top performing, good age group, sort of 22 to 26-year-old Premier League players. I think that's exactly what we need. I loved what Fabrizio said last night, and I hope that he's right about Mbuemo, that he fits what we want. Which, and I know you'll like hearing this because you've had a lot of frustration with the links to the kids, is that we want players that have a future and they're not 32, but are ready to deliver right now. So that was my only issue yesterday with what he said, is that there was no follow-up question to get a little bit more detail. So it is left open-ended. For me, I'm keeping my feet on the ground. I'm just going to take that as, well, maybe we're only signing 3 or 4 players unless we make good sales. So I'm just going to keep my expectations there rather than going, nah, we're buying 8 players. It's going to be an amazing summer. I think it's better at this point to temper your expectations personally, because we do get disappointed a lot by our owners. So I think we always need to be mindful of that as United fans personally.
Yeah, and it's a good point. You know, these journalists are flying halfway across the world. It's amazing on a 10-hour flight they can't construct a bloody good question. I mean, it's just crap. I mean, who asks a question of what's your plans for the summer transfer window? You know, why not go, what's your plans for the summer transfer window? Many fans feel like you need a goalkeeper, 2 centre midfielders and a striker. Are those positions that you're looking at? Are you going to get a better answer? You're going to get a better answer, aren't you?
Of course you are. And as you say, like when Beth and your team are in those, we know that Beth and your team, and in fairness, a lot of the other YouTubers as well that go to different football clubs events, we know they ask better questions because of the way the legacy media react to them. The kind of almost you used to hear it, now you see it now, the sort of the universal, oh, why do you get a question? Because the questions are better. They're questions that fans care about. You know, what the journalists are looking for is that, oh, how can we spin that into a negative? Or how can we spin that into a controversy? How can we spin that into... We saw it when Amorim said that Man United getting to a final and not winning is not acceptable and we won't be remembered. That was spun into, well, you saying Spurs will? No, he didn't slag Spurs off at all. He was talking about his own club. Fan channels don't do that. Fan channels will ask questions that fans want answers to. You might not get a straight answer, but at least we're asking the right questions. The journalists, I think you say this a lot, and it's so right. They're just like, they're not fans. They're there working for a company, trying to get headlines. They don't care about getting the information out of the club that we as supporters want. And I think that's very evident these days.
Well, you know what? We are just fan content communities, and it's amazing how big they're growing. I mean, there's nearly 7,000 watching here, which is fantastic. But yesterday, I was getting so frustrated with the Mbuemo stories coming out from like Talk Shit, because I know how they work, and they do talk shit. And they're going, Man United are in talks with Mbuemo, this, that, and the other. And I know what that means. That doesn't mean like the deal is close. That just means that Man United are linked to Mbuemo. And then you get Fabrizio on the night saying, yeah, he's a player that Man United admire, but there's a lot, basically there's a big but here. There's a lot that needs to happen. There's a lot of clubs looking at Mbuemo, so there's big competition, and United will need to sell to get him. So that's very different to what you're being reported from journalists who basically just want you to click their profile or click their website going, Man United are in talks, and people get very excited about that. And it's like, I think the one thing you need, the one thing every United fan and every football fan wants when their club is in trouble is honesty. You know, the last thing you want is these highs of, oh, this is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. Great comment from Starry Night, which I hadn't thought about Delap, Terry. He said, I'm sure Delap is joining Chelsea. Why would Chelsea announce it before tomorrow night and potentially unsettle Jackson before a Conference League final? I mean, there could be something in that. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the unsettling thing, but sometimes you do. We had this last week with Cunha. I was like, do not announce that before the final because, you know, it's a distraction. Let's just focus on the final. So there could be something in that. I still think it was signed for United, though.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. Chelsea have been the team that have had sort of the least amount of news surrounding their transfers yet. And to a degree, Spurs, because Spurs still have to decide what they're doing with their manager. But I think, yeah, you're right. You're right on that one. I mean, the Ekitike news started picking up a little bit of speed last night around Chelsea. Yeah, very good player. And again, if someone offered me, I like Delap. But if you offer me the choice between Ekitike and Delap, I'm picking Ekitike. So again, if Chelsea want to sign Delap as their priority and leave someone like Ekitike on the table, we then get our sales in. I'm more than happy to snap him up personally, but we will see. This here says from Aya, that says spots on Mark. Red is the new shirt sponsor. Where's that money?
I thought that was a charity thing.
Yeah, Red was a charity thing for one game. We basically have a deal with our shirt sponsors that one of the 38 Premier League games of the season, we can put a sponsor on there. So we can put a charity on there. So yeah, that's not the new sponsor, my bro. That is not that. Arsenal, obviously, in transfers linked to Gyokeres, lots of rumours that personal terms have been agreed or they will be no problems. And we'll get onto that element in a moment. But a lot of people, Mark, have been talking about the goals are in Portugal. They won't translate to the Premier League. He's not playing up against that quality. I saw this tweet, though, yesterday that says, by the way, Victor Gyokeres has bagged 80 GA this season. He's actually insane. 63 goals and 17 assists in 57 games. For those saying it's just the Portuguese league, he has scored 6 in 6 Champions League starts. Ridiculous numbers. I want him at my club. How well do you think Gyokeres could or will do in the Premier League based on the numbers? I think it's something like 97 goals in 103 games for Sporting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are acting like he's playing in a local pub league. It's still a high level of football, and some of those games are Champions League as well, and he's an international. So it's not like he's going to turn up in the Premier League and go, oh my God, we didn't have Tarkowski in the Champions League. There will be an adjustment period. And I think sometimes fans are very eager to label players very, very quickly. Obviously, Darwin Núñez came from Benfica. So people will say, oh, you know, look at that. And he was scoring a lot of goals. But Bruno Fernandes came from Sporting and basically just was what he was at Sporting, just an absolute goal and assist machine. So yeah. I think he's too good. I think when you're scoring those amount of goals, all right, he's not going to do it in the Premier League, but I'd expect him to score 20 goals in a Premier League side. That's what I would expect him to do with service. You put him up front for Man United this season, he might flop because there might not be a lot of service, but you put him in an Arsenal side and you play to his strengths, he's not going to suddenly stop missing. The thing about people don't realise about goal scorers is the goal's the same size. the finishing is the same movement. So if you provide him with chances, he will score those goals. That's what I always find surprising about people who go, oh, it's the Portuguese league. The better team, this is why for him, he's got to sign for the best team he can. And this is why I think he'll sign for Arsenal, because I think he will look at it and go, they're the best team in the Premier League with Liverpool, and I'm going to get service. So I've got to score goals. So I think he will be an absolute phenomenon at Arsenal. I don't think he'll do what Haaland did when he first came here, but I think he'll score the goals, definitely.
I was listening to I don't know how old this is, but it was a question posed to Ibrahimovic, and he said, what's the hardest league to play in? And they said La Liga, the Premier League, and Serie A. And he said La Liga, he said, is difficult because every team tries to play football. I think actually it's quite an old clip, because I think more Premier League teams now try and play football than before. But he said everyone in La Liga tries to play football. He says you don't get many teams that want to sit back and sort of play long ball. That makes it difficult. He said the Premier League, he said, it's not as many teams try and play football. He said, but it's the tempo. The game is up and down, frenetic for 90 minutes. And he said, you could be the best technician. You could have the best skill, the best finishing. You could know how to play football. He said, but if you can't handle the power and the tempo, he said, you're finished. And then he said about Serie A. He said, Serie A is a very technical league. He says, from a defensive standpoint, it's very technical. It's very hard. Teams are very difficult to break down and beat. Napoli are a great example of that this year. And they've done that with players that you wouldn't necessarily say are in that top bracket of European players like Gilmour and McTominay and Billin. And even Lukaku. No one ever looks at these guys and goes top bracket. And I was thinking about that, Gyokeres, when Zlatan was talking. And I think that the only thing that will scarper Gyokeres in England is if he can't handle the tempo and the physicality. And that doesn't mean, and this is where people get so confused, doesn't mean that every Premier League defender is stronger than every Portuguese player, but it's that power coupled with the tempo of the game. It's frenetic. And that is going to be the big test. I think the positive element is he was at Brighton and he played in the Championship, which the Championship isn't as fast as the Premier League we know, but he's been in and around English football. So that should help him. But yeah, I'm a little bit, I think if he was linked to City, there'd be less people saying he would flop. I always find that when it's Man United or when it's Arsenal, players can be rated by the world until they're linked to one of our football clubs. And then suddenly everybody starts to find fault in them as a player, which is always interesting for me. But yeah, I think if Arsenal can pull this off, there's a big report again today coming out of Portugal that personal terms will be agreed on a salary of around 7 million a year, which isn't even bad money. I mean, if that report is true, that they've agreed those personal terms, they're just now waiting on his sort of final decision. If you could bring him in on 7 or 8 million euros a year, I mean, that's good business for a striker of that caliber, I think.
It feels like with Arsenal as well that, and look, it's not necessarily true, but it does feel like Arteta might be leaning a little bit more towards Sesko, whereas Berta is leaning towards Gyokeres. And it could just be Gyokeres making his mind up, but it does feel a little bit like, I know they were very close to Sesko in January, which was before Berta came in. Arteta's got to get that right. And if I was Arteta, I'd go Gyokeres over the two, because he hasn't got a lot of money in the bank with the fan base. And if he brought Sesko in, who's more of a project, and he flopped, and then Gyokeres goes somewhere else and scores goals, he's gonna really he's gonna really face a lot. But then again, the manager must be I'd cash in on Bruno. I've said that. After Wednesday, I'd cash in on Bruno. Amorim doesn't want to do it. I back Amorim on it. The manager must be allowed to do what he wants to do. So, you know, if Arteta wants Sesko, they should get Sesko, really. But I prefer Gyokeres.
Yes, I agree with you on the Bruno thing. I changed my mind as well. If those £100 million stories are true, I think we need the money for this squad, you know. And the players we're linked to, if we could bring them in, I know Bruno's been important, but I do think if we could add Cherkis and Mbuemos and Wirtz to our squad, I think we'd be a better team. And that isn't.
Well, look at what he said this morning. Exactly. This is. I mean, I'm like you. After the final, I was sort of like, if we're going to break it down. And I'm not convinced that Bruno actually fits into this system anyway. I don't think he's a midfielder. But if it's true what Amorim's saying, we're going to have to work with what we've got. We haven't got any money, and you're saying so we haven't got any money, but I can have 100 million for Bruno and spend it on the team. Well, I can play Mainu instead of Bruno in the midfield. I could buy Edison, and I could also buy Cunha. I get 2 for 1. So I'm sort of like, actually, Bruno's 31 this season. Love him to bits, but if it's Bruno or 2 players, as long as those 2 players are quality, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, my view is there's always a risk, but my view is just simple. If we become a better team, I don't actually care who leaves. Again, magic wand time. You know, Harry Potter turns up at my house and says, look, you've got to get rid of Mainu and Garnacho and Ahmad and Bruno and Yoro, but you'll be in the title race next season. I'm saying, okay. If the guarantee, and there's never a guarantee we get better, but as long as we get better, I don't mind who the casualties are. Why do I think that way? Because that's how I thought about Man United growing up my whole life. I was gutted when Beckham left. I was gutted when Keane left. I was gutted when we got rid of, I remember I was heartbroken when we got rid of Ince, Hughes and Konchesky. I couldn't believe we were doing it. I remember sitting there.
Konchesky. We never had Paul Konchesky.
Sorry, Konchesky. Sorry, my bad.
We'd have been celebrating that one.
Yeah, we would have been. I remember just sort of sitting there fuming. My Liverpool brothers winding me up. My dad going, they won a few league titles, but this is a big mistake. And I remember being angry about it. But there was a plan, and and we got better, and we won even more. And that's all I hope for. So again, I'm not going to overreact. I'm going to wait to see which way the land lies, and then we'll go with it. This here says Cristiano Ronaldo as a free agent, 3rd time's the charm. No, thank you. I love Ronnie, but no, thank you. Imagine this manager needs more power, more pace, more speed, more athleticism. I know he's athletic still, but he's 40. No, it's not going to happen. No. Would you rather start Højlund or Onana next season? Oh, that's a question.
I think it's a good question. I'd rather start Rasmus, because I still think that with service he will score goals. Whereas looking at Onana, I think the deficiencies are damaging now. Like, the defense have got no confidence in him. He's got no confidence in himself. He doesn't come for crosses. He just boots it long when he's meant to be a ball playing goalkeeper. I think that it's a great question, but I think that the goalkeeper does need to change. The striker needs to change, but the goalkeeper is a big problem at Man United now, I think. But look, I imagine that might be a 50-50 split.
Mark, saw your 10 a.m. show. If the Glazers, etc., can't afford anyone, then they should sell. It's like having a mortgage you can't pay. You have no choice but to sell the house. Fair point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't really know what the trajectory of United is. It's cut. It can only damage. You've got to start spending at some point. I thought we were making cuts so we could spend. I mean, there are certain aggregators on Twitter who basically are just Glazer fanboys, and they pretend they're not. And they talk about these cuts and they go, it's harsh to sack these people, but we're going to save 20 million a year. That can go towards players. Well, come on then.
Well, and this is exactly, I mean, I get a lot of accusations of that, but if people go back and look at what I said I hated the fact we've cut people's jobs, but now you got to go and spend that money on the team. And if you don't do it, then fuck you. You're going to get called out. So you've got to then hold people to account. If you're someone that's okay, I hate the idea of the redundancies, but supposedly we've saved about 70, 80 million through all cuts and player salary savings. If that then doesn't all get invested into new players, then you're saving it to make the club more profitable, to make it more valuable, to make the Glazers more money. You're not trying to fix a football club. Therefore, I'm going to call it out. So yeah, you've got to back up what you say in those regards. There's no doubt. Hey guys, the Mirror said Gyokeres already rejected us. Any truth in this? I mean, a lot of outlets are saying that Man United have got little to no chance now of getting Victor Gyokeres. So yeah, I think it does feel like there's a lot of truth in that. This year says Arsenal need 2 strikers, not 1. Gyokeres and maybe 1 other. Gorassi, Ekitike, Thuram are examples. There would be good additions, as he would compete with Odegaard in the attacking midfield role as well. Oh, sorry, the lad there. I can't.
You've still got Havertz though, haven't you? He's not going to go anywhere. I think Havertz is still going to be a useful player, as a player that might play up front every now and again. And yeah, I mean, I don't think Havertz is terrible. I just don't think he should be leading your line if you want to win a league.
Yeah, that makes sense. In light of the transfer window updates, shouldn't we be expecting results no matter what? That is including him at times sacrificing the formation for results. The formation is a problem, Mark.
I don't think it is. I think the system's fine. I think this is one of the sort of things that frustrates me over the last 6 months in the mainstream is the obsession with system. And the reality is that even in the Villa game, even in the Lyon game, we've seen the tweaks to the system. And 3-4-3 is not unusual. Like there are teams in the Premier League who already play it. There are teams who've won the Premier League playing it, so it's a weird obsession. The reality is it's the players in the system that's the biggest issue for me. I don't think Bruno works in the midfield. I think that's a conversation that the mainstream have completely missed because they're constantly talking about system. That there's nothing wrong with that system. He's only got one player that he's brought. I think the more players he brings into the system, the more it will work. And that would be the same for Eddie Howe, Pep Guardiola, any manager, Maresca. So I don't there's nothing wrong with the system. I think it's the players that he puts into that system that's the problem at the moment.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I hear where you're coming from with that. I don't necessarily think it's a system. I think there's more to it than that. Second part of that super chat from earlier, we did miss it. Sorry. It did say that also read that Ronaldo is leaving. What Champions League clubs could take him? Sporting. Yeah. Sporting might. I don't think there'll be very many takers for the salary that he demands. I also think he would take a big pay cut to play for someone like Sporting. I don't think he'd take a big pay cut to go to a big club in another country. He would do that for his boyhood club. And yeah, it might be nice for them to, have him there next season and, maybe then he retires or goes to America or something like that, maybe.
I can't believe he's leaving Saudi, actually. I always thought that he, obviously it's logical, but I always thought that, like, he was the Saudi project. So I'm surprised it's just, it's here now. He's going to go, isn't it? It'd be interesting to see, like, how that impacts the Saudi football project, because I think having Ronaldo is a very big thing for that. And it's very hard to replace that in the modern game.
Yeah. I mean, there's almost no one with that. I mean, unless they went and got Yamal or Mbappe or Haaland, maybe at this point, only someone like that. I mean, I suppose that's why maybe they're making a big play for Bruno in terms of if they're going to lose a star like Ronaldo. I mean, Bruno and Ronaldo don't compare in terms of star attraction and pull, but maybe that's why they're going to go big this summer because they're losing that. Maybe they need 3 or 4 or 5 Bruno types across Europe to keep the eyes on their league. Because Ronaldo has definitely brought them millions of viewers a week to their league. I mean, there's a woman that I follow on Instagram. She's like a football vlogger, and she used to go to all games everywhere. She spent the last 3 years consistently in Saudi watching Ronaldo play. And I know it's only one person, but she has like a 2 million following herself. So there's all of that with him leaving. This is from Danielle that says, Terry and Mark, what do you think of the team going to Malaysia?
Disgusting. I heard Amorim saying that, we have to do this. Our fans are here and they deserve us to be here, this, that, or the other. Again, not blaming Amorim, but hold on a minute. There's a huge Man United fan base in India. When was the last time we went there? South Africa, huge Man United fan base. When did we last go there? We're going there for money. And we can kiss the arse of the fans and go, oh, we're here because we want to be here. We don't even do an Asian tour in the summer anymore because the money's in America. It's just money. And those players, you can't moan about the physical demand. I don't want to hear anything from anyone from Man United, whether it's player, coach or owner, about the demands of the Premier League or the schedule of the football next year, because this is a week where mentally and physically you could have been switched off, whether you're an international or not. Bruno, whatever. Bruno Fernandes plays a ridiculous amount of football. He could have been on a beach for a week. That week is such a rarity, and we're taking them over there for nothing, for money. So,
man, I've been saying that for years, and I've dug out every club. I'll dig out my own and keep the same energy. Like, I don't want to hear Chelsea next season moan that their players are overworked. I don't want to hear Pep moan that there's too many games. I don't want to hear PSG or Real Madrid with the World Club Cup. You're putting your club into a month-long tournament, and then you're going to go into pre-season. Man United now doing post-season tours. I've called Liverpool out for it before. If clubs, and they pretend clubs, don't they? When they've got a hard schedule and they might go out of competition, they start talking about player welfare. If you cared about player welfare, as you said, you do your pre-seasons at home, play local teams, keep them near their families, keep them as rested as possible. But you don't. You want the money. And equally with the players moaning, you guys all want the 300, the 400, the 500 grand a week, the bonuses, the sponsors. Well, it comes with an obligation. So for me, if you want to play less football If you want the players to have less games, every internal element of football has to expect less money. So that's the thing for me. I don't mind them doing it. Just don't moan about the amount of games you got to play. For me personally. So yeah, I've always felt that, and I'll keep the same for my club. The patience that most Liverpool fans have had with Núñez, Wirtz will be given time to adjust to the Premier League, and that is important for any player switching leagues. Great point. They're a very, very patient fan base. Kane for 56 million. Anthony, Rashford, Sancho. Choose one to return. I'd take Kane for 56 million. Would you?
Yeah.
And if you had to choose between Anthony, Rashford, or Sancho returning to play for us next year, which one would it be?
On ability, Rashford, but definitely don't bring him back. So Anthony.
Yeah, it's mad what performances can do. Anthony was the one I'd pick as well, just because I don't even know why. I don't even know. Do you know what I think it is for me? It's the fanboys attached. It's not even Rashford or Sancho. I don't dislike either of them. It's the fanboys they bring with them. I just don't want them. The fanboys I want away from the club. Not even the players. I want the fanboys away. So
cook it again, won't they? Yeah.
Fanboys are just mad. Banter here. Liverpool won in 1990. Who won in 91? Leeds was 92. Who won in 91? Why do I want to say Everton? I don't know.
It was Arsenal. I think it was Arsenal.
Was it Arsenal? League winners, England. Let's have a little look. You're probably right. Maybe Everton was a little bit before that. Let's have a little list of league title winners. 91.
Everton won 86.
Was Arsenal. Yeah, Everton. Yeah, Everton was 87. Yeah, 87 was Everton. 90. I know Leeds was 92. Yeah, Arsenal. There we go. Hey, sorry, already done that super chat there. With Arteta, I may be wrong. It seems he doesn't like star players. He picks squad players from big teams. Jesus, Havertz, Odegaard. Rice was the only big name signing in the last 5 years. Something happening with Gyokeres versus Sesko. Maybe.
You got to back your manager. I mean, I think Gyokeres is the one to go for. But if you want Sesko, you got to give the manager what he wants. Otherwise, it becomes a problem, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I hear that. Rick here says, I think United need a ball carrying midfielder. Yeah, we need players that can progress the ball by dribbling it. There's no doubt about that. Ball carriers, definitely. Do you guys think Liverpool will do more business? Potentially. You're going to sell players as well, potentially.
I still think that if Núñez goes and maybe Jota goes or Diaz goes, then you're going to bring another attacker in, aren't you? I mean, some people have said, what would you think about Gyokeres to Liverpool? I mean, it's game over if he goes there, but I also don't think he suits their system. I've said this before. It's funny, actually, because I said on that podcast at the start of the season, Haaland doesn't start for Liverpool. And it was at a time when City were favourites to win the league and Haaland was favourite to win the Golden Boot. And nobody really got what Liverpool were all about. And I did a video on that football before a season started. And I said, I don't think Liverpool are going to flop. I think slot system's going to work really, really well. But Haaland at Liverpool wouldn't work because that central striker has to sort of move back to let the wingers go past him. He's got to be able to link up. He will score goals, but he might not score as many goals as Salah. He's not the head of the team. He's sort of a focal point of the team. He's got to receive the ball. So I don't know enough about Gyokeres to know whether he's good playing that unselfish role, linking the play, etc. He's used to playing the head of a 4-3-3, isn't he? So I think Liverpool need Isak would be very good for Liverpool because he's technically very good as well. But I don't know what type of forward they'd go for Liverpool because there's definitely got to be somebody who can score goals, but also is unselfish. And Firmino was brilliant. You know, that's what he was absolutely brilliant. Mane and Salah scored a lot of goals. They need that type of a forward.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. We're going to come back to a few super chats in a minute because we have some video clips we also want to play on the show we haven't played yet. Viewers, hit the like and the share button. These are a bit more football related than just the transfers. But this
Alvarez would be perfect, Adam.
Yeah, Alvarez would be an excellent signing. I totally agree. I think there's a few teams looking at him, Alvarez. I think that might be one to watch, even though Atty is saying that he's settled. Still one to watch, I think. This is Jermaine Defoe being asked a big question about about Tottenham and Arsenal season. Let's take a look at what he says.
If they do win that trophy, do you think they've had a better season than Arsenal? Well, I keep seeing this stuff on Instagram, like, weird, right? Because then Arsenal fans are saying, well, we weren't in the Europa League, we're in the Champions League, it's a harder competition. So, you know what it is? Focus on us, focus on top. Don't even worry about what Arsenal are doing, and just focus on winning the Europa League, and then we see what happens next year. But listen, Arsenal had a good season. You know, coming from a Tottenham man, they've had a good season. But in terms of Tottenham, what an opportunity to do something special, regardless of obviously losing 20 games season domestically, but it's still a chance. So yeah.
Basically, didn't answer the question, did he?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting one from Defoe, basically saying, well, Arsenal had a good season. They couldn't win the Europa League because they weren't in it. But I'm posing that question to you. There's been a lot of people ask that question before the final and after the final. Who, in your view, Mark, has had the better season, Tottenham or Arsenal?
Hands down, every day, Arsenal. Like, Spurs have lost 22 games this season, I think. 38 points. It's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. But then they've won the best trophy I've seen them win in my life. So I actually think they have to part ways with Ange, because we did this with Ten Hag. You keep a manager, and but I don't think they should sack Ange. I think both Ange should have the common sense to say, look, I can't continue. Let's just part ways amicably. You rebuild, I walk away with the trophy. I think that's the way to do it. But there's no way you can say Spurs have had a better season than Arsenal, because they've won a trophy that I think every team in the Premier League would have probably had a great chance of winning. I mean, look at the two finalists, two of the shittest teams in the Premier League, bar the relegation teams, got to the final of it. So, I mean, Bournemouth probably would have won that. So I think fair play to Spurs. Obviously, no bitterness. They deserve to win it. But I think Arsenal have had the better season, unless you just really want a trophy, in which case you'd have to say Spurs. But I think status-wise, it's got to be Arsenal. But that's a very political answer from Jermaine Defoe. I mean, basically gave us nothing.
Yeah. I mean, AMT says the same thing. It was a political answer. What it's done for me, it's drummed up. There's been a conversation that's been going on in the sort of football fan space for a while, which is that trophies are all that matter. And I started asking a few different fans from different clubs a question, because I don't believe in a blanket statement that trophies are all that matter. And the biggest reason I don't think that's the case is because you can't judge every team. Not every team is in the same start point. So, for instance, the way Tottenham and Newcastle and Palace have celebrated their domestic cup and Europa League victories this year is very different and has a very different emotional feeling compared to if Liverpool had won the Carabao Cup, City had won the FA Cup, and if Man United had won the Europa League. All of our clubs that I mentioned that lost those finals, we would have celebrated, but I'm not sure any of us would have had parades over that. That isn't a dig at any of those teams. There's a different start point as well. So I think for Spurs fans, they will feel their season's been better because they are on cloud 9. Where had Arsenal had 2 years of challenging for the Prem, then come 17th, lost 22 league games and won the Europa League, I think they'd be happy with the trophy, but they would see it in that short-term period of, but look where we were 2 years ago, nearly winning Prems, and now we're down in 17th. I think you always have to weigh these things up as well. And I just don't. And I asked this question yesterday to a Tottenham fan, Henry Wright, and he's triggered the Spurs fans in our group chat because I said, would you swap? So everything about Tottenham remains the same, your history, what you've won in the past, your legends. You keep your stadium, you keep your kit, you keep your name. But would you swap and eradicate the memory of winning the Europa League to have Arsenal's squad, their pull in the transfer market this summer, and have Arsenal's chance of winning the Premier League next season? Would you gamble it, essentially, for Spurs to be able to maybe win a Premier League next year? And he said, without a shadow of a doubt, yes. And the Spurs fans were angry. They were fuming with him. How dare you do that? And they come up with a great point in the group chat. They were saying, but Terry, the journey, I don't just want to go from being a team that isn't winning to a team that is winning. I want to go through that growth and that journey. That's such an important part. And I was like, well, hey, presto. No matter your answers to that question, I think you've answered that question of the origination of that debate, which is trophies in isolation are not all that matter. You have to look at the context of where a club is, the journey that you've been through, and what you want to come after that point, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think for me, I agree with you. I look at Arsenal season as better in the Premier League, similar to each other in domestic trophies. What I would say is, would this Arsenal team have won the Europa League this season? There's a very good chance because they're much better than Man United and Spurs, but they weren't in it. Equally, though, what I say is Spurs shouldn't even be concerned about that. They should every right to enjoy it the way they are personally. So, on that same talking point, this is from TalkSport. This is Cundy and this is Jamie O'Hara. Let's take a look at what they were talking about.
The next,
let's talk about 38 points.
Yeah,
there is
good season.
Do you know what? You lot are an absolute disgrace. You've got no shame, you lot. No shame. The worst side in London. And do you know what? You are the worst side in London.
What do you mean? We're the best side in London.
The worst side.
We're not. We're the best side in London. We've won a trophy.
West Ham finished above you.
We are the best side in London. We've won a trophy.
West Ham finished above you.
We've got Champions League football. You can't call us a disgrace.
Well, watch this. You're an absolute disgrace. The worst side in London.
Obviously, a bit of banter between the two of them, but do you agree with a lot of Spurs fans are saying this now, including Ange? It was a fantastic season for Tottenham. Do you think that's fair? Do you agree with it?
I think if you accept the fact that Spurs only focused on the Europa League, which is what Ange did, then you go into a European competition, you win that competition, you deserve the plaudits for that. I also agree that the Premier League is the hardest tournament in world football, and they finished fourth from bottom. So it's look, the thing is, that's why it's a debate, isn't it? Spurs fans would probably take winning the Europa League and qualifying for the Champions League at the start of the season. If it meant finishing fourth from bottom, I think they'd absolutely take it. It's the thing Arsene Wenger couldn't understand. Like, he got locked in on league form and the Europa League, the UEFA Europa League and the Premier League. You get into the Champions League by winning the Europa League. This creates a situation where you can literally be shit in the Premier League and still get in the Champions League. And that's what Spurs have done. And they must be applauded for winning the Europa League. But you also have to say, over a 38-game season, they were dreadful. Two things can be right.
No, I agree. And this is the problem when people make crazy statements, because there would have been no Tottenham fan that would have said West Ham were the best team in London when they won the Conference League. And they were the only team that season to win a trophy. And I suppose that's kind of the people's issue with it, I suppose, is that people will pick and choose. That's why, again, I mean, maybe I am being political in my answer. I just feel that you have to look at the context. Palace will look at their season. It's their greatest ever season in the history of their football club. And that's true. So how they feel is very different. They probably feel happier than Liverpool fans do right now. I genuinely think they feel happier than Liverpool fans, but you can't judge it based on how you feel. You have to look at these things objectively, I think, when you're reviewing it. I agree. However, history favors trophies. United, Paul, Arsenal, no trophy. Yeah, it does favor trophies in that regard. To a certain...
I think it does now. I disagree with that.
What do you mean?
I don't think history does favour trophies. Of course it does. When I was a kid, the FA Cup final used to be bigger than winning the league, which just seems weird to say that now. It was such an event. I remember the FA Cup final in '87 between Spurs and Coventry. I don't know who won the league. 86 was Everton. 85, maybe 87 was Everton. I don't know. Maybe it was Liverpool. But I think in the modern day, fourth place is more valuable to many fans than winning the Carabao Cup, because you go in the Champions League and you've earned it over 38 games. You know, people say, how can fourth place be more valuable than silverware? Hold on a minute. It's not just because of the Champions League. 38 games in the hardest league in the world and you finish fourth, and therefore you qualify for the Champions League. Carabao Cup, how many games do you play in that? A lot of teams put out their reserves. That's now so I don't necessarily think that trophies are more valuable. It depends what the trophy is. Winning the Champions League or the Premier League, I don't think there's anything that's going to be better than that. Yeah,
you haven't had a better season. If next season Liverpool win the Premier League and City do the domestic FA Cup and Carabao Cup and come fourth in the league, Liverpool, yes, have won 1 trophy to 2, but they've had a better season. Equally, Sevilla are a great example on the European level. They have 8 European trophies. And 7 of them are Europa League stroke FA Cups, Europa Leagues stroke UEFA Cups, and they have 1 Super Cup. Now, They have more European trophies than Manchester United. I think we have 6 or 7, but we have 3 Champions Leagues. Their 7 Europa Leagues do not outweigh our 3 Champions Leagues. They have the same amount of European trophies as Ajax, but Ajax have 4 Champions Leagues. They don't outweigh it. So it isn't just history favours trophies. You have to look at what the trophies are and how big they were when you win them. A great example, just how we know history doesn't favour trophies. One, Arsenal, they've got 1 European trophy with the Cup Winners' Cup. That means you don't know your history, because the Fairs Cup that they have was before the UEFA. It was what the UEFA Cup used to be. So people will say Spurs have got 3 UEFA Cup straight Europa Leagues now. Arsenal have got none. That isn't true, because before the Europa League, it was the UEFA Cup. Before the UEFA Cup, it was the Fairs Trophy. Equally, up until it was finished, the Cup Winners' Cup was deemed the second biggest cup in Europe. So when people say Fergie only won 2 European trophies with United, no, he didn't. He won 4. Sorry, he won 3. The Cup Winners' Cup. But people go, that's a nothing cup. No, you're thinking it's now. You youngsters think it's the Conference League, and it's small. It wasn't. It was massive. So when you say history favours only trophies, we see consistently trophies and achievements from the past being diminished because the modern day fan doesn't remember how important it was or how difficult. People forget when Fergie was doing what he was doing with Aberdeen. They forget how good the Celtics and the Rangers were, not just domestically in Scotland, but they were European powerhouses as well. You think it's nowadays in Scotland. So you can't just say that. You have to remember the landscape of football at those times as well. I think it's really important to remember that.
It's always a niche, isn't it? It's niche as well. I mean, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup's the greatest thing that's happened in their history, probably. I would choose 4th place over the FA Cup this year, 100% as a Man United fan. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the people in the chat saying, what's this guy talking about? He'd take 4th place over a trophy. But that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. But the world's changed. Not everybody's there going, now, I'd rather have a trophy over 4th place. Some people are going, I'd rather have 4th place. I like the Champions League. I want to play in the Champions League. The FA Cup gets you in the Europa League and gives you a bus tour if you want it. You know, it's not necessarily a bus tour, is it?
No, I agree. Terry, this is why I asked, as new formats made the Europa League easier for Premier League teams, as the Champions League dropouts are no longer there. With financial power of the Premier League, especially the top 6 to 8 clubs, England will dominate the Europa League without Champions League dropouts. Maybe, I mean, but next season we've only got Crystal Palace in it, so we'll see. We'll see where Crystal Palace fare in that tournament next season. But listen, there's not been very many teams that have dropped down for the Champions League that have gone on to win it. So I don't necessarily agree, but I thank you for that amazing donation. A clip here, Jurgen Klopp. Let's take a listen to what Klopp has had to say about Trent. Let's take a little look at this.
Don't want to tell you what you have to think, but I can tell you.
I can't hear it, Terry.
Is it cut out? Let me see if I can start that again. It's not playing for me either. Let's try that again. Let's see if it works again.
Villa are in the Europa League as well.
Tell you what you have to think, but I can't tell you what you think is wrong. So that's what I can, because I'm an old man and I don't waste time with hiding my opinion. So this boy with 18 years old, he scored a free kick in Hoffenheim. If he doesn't score that, we don't qualify for the Champions League. In the game against Barcelona, he did the most cheeky thing in the world and set up a goal for a 4-0, which a result in a game which will never happen again. I don't tell you you should not be disappointed, you should not be angry. I tell you, don't forget. Don't forget, this club doesn't forget. We are famous for not forgetting.
Klopp there. So he's very clever with his words. I'm not telling you how you should feel, but I am telling you how you feel is wrong for booing Trent and for being unhappy with him leaving. What was your view on what Klopp has said here to Liverpool fans?
I mean, I wasn't aware about it until I saw Rio Ferdinand's tweet where he went, Klopp says don't boo fans and clowns on here are telling me it's okay. I mean, this is what I mean. Jurgen Klopp didn't call people who booed Trent clowns. So, and Rio Ferdinand, you don't play for Liverpool. You're not a Liverpool legend. So stop trying to get involved in it, which has always been my argument. It's a Liverpool fan thing. And Jurgen Klopp's got way more observation on this than me or you have. My stance on this is if Liverpool fans feel aggrieved enough that they want to boo him, then that is up to them. And that is why freedom of speech is so important. Booing is not abuse. It's an expression of dissatisfaction. I understand some Liverpool fans and Jurgen Klopp think that Liverpool Football Club shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, it's a player who at 26 has ran his contract down, is going to Real Madrid because he thinks Liverpool are better. And ultimately, the way the Champions League is now, you play 8 games in a league system. The Champions League is very much becoming a European league in itself. And Liverpool fans probably look at Real Madrid as a rival. And they it used to be, Real Madrid in Spain, who we might play once every 10 years. It's now this Champions League where you'd expect to maybe play them every year. They're a rival. And I think Liverpool fans are a bit pissed off about how he's done it. Look, if he'd done what Harry Kane did, no one would be booing him. It's just the way it's happened. And you can understand why it's happened, because that's the way football is now. But him, the player, his people around him have deliberately run that contract down for their own means. And that's not helped Liverpool out, has it? So some people aren't happy about that. What Jurgen Klopp is basically saying is, because we're Liverpool, we should just take it and remember the good times, which means that when it happens again, they've got to remember the good times. And I think sometimes I don't think Trent's behaved particularly well. And if Liverpool fans aren't happy about that, they've got a right to express it. It's booing, isn't it? It's not like anything worse than that, isn't it? If someone tells a bad joke in a comedy club, you get booed. That's it.
Yeah, no, listen, I hear you. I get where Klopp's coming from, and Klopp's speaking from a very, like the players, they're speaking from an emotional position because they know the man. And the fans don't know the man. And I'm sure if you're a Liverpool fan who knew Trent personally, you wouldn't have booed him. But the fans don't know him personally. They always put the club over individuals. They always will, Liverpool supporters, by and large. And again, I stand with what their view is. They're just booing him. They're not sending him death threats. They're not, threatening to hurt him or beat him up in the street. He hasn't been physically accosted or anything along those lines. They've booed him to let him know they're disappointed with the decision that he's made. I just think it's fair. Personally, I just think it's fair. A few more super chats here. This one from I Will Drink Arteta's Sweat. He says, Terry, you asked for Cunha's attitude issues. He assaulted Ipswich staff on the back of the head, swinged and headbutted Gyokeres. Well, what I'm going to say is this. I've seen Van Dijk, you're a Liverpool fan. I've seen Van Dijk this season smash his shoulder into, I think, 3 players' faces. At least 3 times. I've seen Rodri of Man City grab gives White around the neck and strangle him. Don't care. Still good football players. These things happen on a football pitch. One of my greatest ever players. In fairness, he'd probably get a medal in 2025. He kicked a racist in the face after he got sent off. Rightfully so. That's not an attitude problem. When you say the coach spoke of his work rate, show me. I'd like to see that quote. I see this man work his backside off on the football pitch. We'll see, but I don't see that as an attitude problem. I see that as somebody who's got a little bit of personality. Hello, Terry, Mr. Terry and Mark Goldbridge. Haven't been able to join all the streams. How are you doing? Very well, Krishna. Very, very well, my friend. Thank you. Giving medals for competing is not enough. Yeah, no one thinks it is. No one thinks it is. Nobody wants medals for entering. Europa League means more than top 4. You get into the Champions League and you've won a trophy. That's fair. Maybe if you came 5th and got a Europa League, it's very different to coming 17th and losing 22 games. Context. Cherky trying to get generational hate by United fans. He's been linked in the last little while by Fabrizio to Manchester City, Cherky, and we'll react to that later on the Football Terrace. Rasmus has 4 Premier League goals. Absolutely shocking return. Given our lack of goals and minus goal difference, his goals could have made a difference many times. Very true. And we do need a new striker. At the same time, we were asked an impossible question earlier. If we sign all the players we're linked to this summer, but we had to choose Rasmus to stay in the team or Onana, I'm still probably picking Rasmus. Because no matter how good the team is, those mistakes are still going to happen from Onana. With Rasmus in the team, if we had Cunhas and Mbomos and Whartons and Cherkys around him, we'd probably score more goals as a team overall. So it's in an ideal world, we want neither. But we got asked the question, so come on. Sky's hyping up a 15-year-old Max Dowman. Recently, he's gliding past players 2 or 3 years older than him and getting GA everywhere. The new English wonder kid. Heard about him. haven't seen, the only game I see him play was against United in the FA Youth Cup, where United won the game. Very, very talented player.
Was he at Spurs or Chelsea or something?
Arsenal, I think. I think it's Arsenal. Unless I watched the wrong game.
No, yeah, you're right. It was Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it was that game there. Comparing some altercations inside a game to an assault on an old man on the sidelines is crazy. Listen, I saw Gattuso square up to Joe Jordan and headbutt him. We saying Gattuso was a bad player that meant he was a bad player and didn't help his teams. Come on, give me something. When you guys speak about bad attitude, I'm not having he's lost his temper on a football pitch. Many a player has done it who are legends of the game. Zinedine Zidane literally headbutted a man in the chest in a World Cup final. Does that diminish his status as a football player? Does it, Eck?
It's crazy that people are, even some United fans have gone, I've got worries about his attitude. I'm like, Roy Keane tried to snap Haaland's leg. It's are we really now living in a world where we're worried about somebody's attitude over their talent? Come on. He's had, what's he scored? 20 goals? No, maybe not 20 goals.
17, something like
17
that.
goals for Wolves.
Yeah, bad attitude. Anthony saying he couldn't eat or sleep for days. What is it about United that makes it so toxic? Look, I think it's a combination. His performances, his bad performances, the pressure of being at the biggest club in England. All of this adds up. And I think he's gone to a team where there's less pressure. We don't have a great dressing room. I'll admit that. And I think it's a individual.
The media is vile as well. Just on
the
Anthony,
media don't help. Yeah.
Anthony did that fidget spinner thing, which maybe he shouldn't have done, and maybe he should. But the reality is, the second he did that, he was I can't remember who the co-commentator was on TNT. Instantly was losing their shit about it. That radio station, all their pundits on there, never shut up about him afterwards. Like, he did get the old rough end of the stick that when, if that had been a British player, they would have loved it. But as soon as it's a foreign player, no, we're not having that.
No, I agree. I agree. It's a combination of all of those things. You saw the way I was listening to Alan Shearer talk about how Big Angie's right. Doesn't matter where your league form is. If you win a trophy and get into the Champions League, or you get into Europe, I think he said it's an amazing season. He had the opposite attitude for a team that came 8th last year and won 2 trophies 2 years running. When he was sitting on the side of the pitch during the FA Cup final talking to Ten Hag, his attitude was completely different towards Man United than it was Tottenham. And some will say that's fair, bigger club, bigger history, but that also plays its part in the media. Because had Man United won that Europa League, the way Amorim and the club would have pressure applied to it would be different to Tottenham. Players have to be able to handle that as well. So it's not nice to hear that he wasn't eating and leaving his room. I don't want that for any human being. At the same time, that's why mentality plays a big part. Look, I want to thank every single person that's tuned in. Mark, always a pleasure to sit here and speak football with you Tuesday mornings. Thank you to all of our super chatters, everyone who's hit the like buttons. 42,000 views since we've been live, which is out of this world. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody. Mark, you're back at 2 p.m. on
2 p.m. United Stand,
2 p.m. on the United Stand. We're back at 3:30 here on the Football Terrace for Straight Facts. So it'd be great to see you all here at that time. Until next time, people, look after yourselves, okay? Take care. Good. Hang on 1 second. Have I just... Yes. We're live. I'm just checking. I was still live at 3:30. Yes, we're live at 3:30. So we'll see you all again there. Take care, people. See you in a bit. Peace.